DevilNeverCry.
If the original Devil May Cry can be considered famous for having been the genesis point of a whole new genre, the character action genre of that, then its sequel, Devil May Cry 2, can also be considered equally as famous for having taken everything that made the original so great and thrown it out of the window entirely. And in this video, we're going to be playing through Devil May Cry 2 start to finish and getting our money back. To provide you with a little bit of context, I did the very same thing with the original Devil May Cry in a previous video of mine, and a lot of you seemed to really enjoy that video. And a surprising amount of you wanted to see me do the very same thing with DMC2, so let's explain how things are going to work. For those of you who are unaware and uninitiated, Steam has a very interesting refund policy which allows you to refund a game, no questions asked, provided that the refund request has been provided within 14 days of purchase, and that you have less than 2 hours total playtime on that title. And so that outlines the general challenge of this video. I'll have to beat all of DMC2 within 2 hours if I want to get my money back. Taking a look at the DMC2 speedrun leaderboard, a few things become quite evident quite quickly. The first of which is that there are technically 2 characters that you can beat the campaign with, Dante or Lucia. The second of which is that I was talking absolute nonsense in the previous video, thinking I could beat both campaigns in under 2 hours. Yes, looking at the times, it is technically feasible, but that's only if you are a seasoned runner. Not only do I have no experience running DMC2 whatsoever, I also don't have the luxury of resets or practicing because I have a 2-hour time limit. And so that provides us with an interesting conundrum. Which character do I choose to play with? As much as I want to play through Lucia's campaign, I fear it'll be far too short for this sort of challenge and won't add any tension to the run. As such, we'll be playing as Dante instead. And with that out of the way, let's play some Devil May Cry. Dante starts off the first mission of DMC2 by promptly throwing himself off a building, which I think says a lot about this game. Getting back on track though, we're going to be rolling a lot throughout this run, the entirety of the run at that, because it is one of the fastest means of movement in this game that doesn't cost any resources. We're going to roll past all of the skippable encounters in Mission 1 before being forced into our first encounter where we actually find a gold orb just laying about on the street. We defeat a couple of spooky, scary skeletons that have gotten a hold of some kitchen utensils, and then we defeat some fiery imps that go down faster than your mother on a Sunday morning. We almost get lost amidst the rooftops, but eventually find our way. Promptly moving on, Mission 2 takes us underground, where yet again, I get a little lost. Did I mention I don't know anything about the speedrun route for this game? I eventually find my way and pick up the aerial heart, which as the name implies, allows us to fly during Devil Trigger. I make my way to the end of the mission, but not before Dante makes goat soup out of some of these luscious looking enemies. Mission 3 has us running through an abandoned town, skipping all the enemies we can and defeating another flying goat. And then we're faced with our very first boss, the Orangera, which as the name implies is some sort of demonic orangutan who we absolutely smack up in the middle of a busy subway station. I know at this point that it's a bit of a meme that guns are incredibly powerful in DMC2, but if you are going for the speed strats, you have to realize that they're not always the best choice. Some bosses and enemies are actually more susceptible to melee damage, and in those cases, it is far more time efficient to go in for the melee attacks as opposed to stepping away and just whittling down their health. Having said that, it doesn't really apply all too much to Mission 4, which tasks us getting through the puzzle of a closing gate by using the Quick Heart, a replacement for the Aerial Heart, which, as the name implies, allows you to run faster during Devil Trigger. And that brings us to the Yokut Golem boss, where things get incredibly dicey. I end up getting bored of the guns only approach, which is fairly safe but very time consuming, go in for the Devil Triggered melee kill for the damage race, and actually end up dying. Now, one of the main strats that you can make use of throughout all of DMC2 is the Margin Devil Trigger, aka this version of Sin Devil Trigger. The only caveat and inherent risk with this strategy though is that you need to be at incredibly low critical health to even use this Devil Trigger, and if you end up getting hit with a stray attack, it is game over. Defeating the boss gives us access to the shotgun, an amazing weapon, and then we move on to mission 5. We kick off the mission fighting some of the most annoying enemies throughout the series, and that is Bulwark's duo of wolves. These enemies are quite unpredictable and never stay still, which makes a melee approach quite difficult, though we are eventually able to gun them down. Traveling through these desolate, barren yet cavernous downtown streets eventually leads us to everybody's favorite enemies, the infested tanks. Now, I'm almost certain that you can skip these enemies. In fact, by the time I defeated these enemies, it dawned on me that I didn't need to fight them at all. But we end up taking them out and moving on to everybody's favorite boss fight. Oh yeah, it's time for the infested chopper. Now, if this boss wasn't bad enough with the way it's essentially designed to be tackled from a gameplay perspective, there is a heap of platforming thrown into the mix before you even get to the boss. And in fact, at one point, one of the boss's attacks knocks me out of the air, and I almost end up falling off the platform entirely. During this boss, I make the mistake of thinking that you can carry more than one gold orb in this game. Before this boss, prior to this point, I thought I'd picked up 2 different gold orbs, and I did. It's just that Dante can't carry more than one, so the second one was converted into orbs, the currency. And so, as I yet again am just standing there attempting to damage race the boss, I die yet again. Except this time, I have to restart from a checkpoint and waste several minutes getting back so I can fight the boss. Needless to say, I was annoyed, some may even say seething, definitely not molding or coping though. We ended up taking down this boss after going for a more careful approach and pushed on to mission 6. After doing a little bit of backtracking in mission 6, we face the Neferstutis boss, which is literally a building come to life. The shotgun here does an amazing amount of work, especially when they're deep-throating the barrel, and then we get to the second phase of the fight. I get the boss down to the final pixel of health, and I die. Now at this point, some of you might think that I'm some sort of galaxy brain megamind dying on purpose to pad out the timer and make the video more tense, but trust me, I'm not. Facing off against the boss for a second time, we eventually prevail. Pressing on to mission 7, we come across some sort of factory. We skip a bunch of enemies, Dante slides down a gigantic pipe, we run down the world's largest fucking spiral staircase, find a random lava pit, pick up an absolutely thick with 3C's sword, ride down the world's slowest elevator before finally taking a train to our destination. Mission 8 is short and sweet. We simply have to take on the Furia Taurus boss, which isn't really much of a challenge at all, as we can just stand there and shoot it to death. After making quick work of that boss, it's on to mission 9, which tasks us with backtracking all the way through the factory under the threat of it imploding. It even gives us our own timer. Now, things are going swimmingly, except during one of the puzzle sequences, I get lost. I need to find 3 pieces of floating marble to smack around with my bat of a sword to open up a door so we can finish the mission. I find the first 2 quite quickly, but the third one eludes me, just like Dante eludes paying his bills. Turns out it was hidden thanks to the fixed camera angle perspectives, which was rather annoying. We hop into a giant cargo plane, pick up a random missile launcher, ride that plane into a giant fan, and then end the mission. We start off mission 10 by slapping about even more floating pieces of marble before Dante loses an imaginary game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And is whisked away into the Shadow Realm. There's never an explanation as to how or why we've been spirited away, but now Dante is faced with fighting a giant floating demonic moth somewhere in the underworld. We absolutely bamboozle the boss with a missile launcher, and then we end the mission. Mission 11 features everybody's favorite textures in DMC2 that love to send your eyes funny, and then I accidentally go into a secret room, which causes me to restart the mission and waste time. That's what you get for not reading the guide. We fondle a shining ball, and by fondle I mean smack up repetitively and copiously with our sword, and then do some more horrible platforming. And I do mean horrible. Fixed camera angles return in this game, which again makes depth perception and getting the correct angle on jumps absolutely horrible. I even end up falling off of the elevator and missing the world's simplest jump. But that doesn't matter. I end up getting to take out all of my frustration on the boss of this level, Bulwark, or as I like to call him, Discount Nello Angelo. The only challenging thing about this fight is having to deal with these 2 wolves which love to pull your lock on and smack you out of combos. Mission 12 starts us off in what can only genuinely be described as an absolute clusterfuck of a room where we have to complete this weird puzzle and then face some of these floating random skulls which have somehow been transported from the world of DMC1 and Malay Island. Thankfully, this is another short mission. After defeating that room with the floating skulls, we make our way to another boss, the Plutonian. As much as the actual enemy design is cool, the boss is pretty much a bore. The only thing that's somewhat of a challenge with this fight is avoiding the lights that beam across the floor and damage you. Even still, the boss is no match for us and our elite speedrunning skills, and it goes down without a fight. Mission 13 is another short mission as it's a singular boss fight against Arius, or as I like to call him, Discount Heihachi. The only redeeming feature about this boss is his hilarious over-the-top voice acting. We absolutely stove his head in and finished the fight, but I suspect that won't be the last we'll be seeing of him. And that finally brings us on to Mission 14, a mission that to this day I still can't stand. The world has essentially been warped, twisted, distorted, corrupted, whatever you want to call it, and Dante is faced with finding 4 of these lights scattered around the map. As a child playing through this mission for the first time, I was absolutely stumped, and I think that's partially why I dislike this mission so much. It took me forever to find one of the final lights which, would you believe it, is way up above one of the rooftops, way up in the sky, hidden by the fixed camera angle. After finding all 4 lights in the environment, we come to the final area where we're faced against a boss fight with Phantom, the lava spider from the original DevilNeverCry. How does Phantom even appear? Doesn't make sense, he's dead. Well, I did a whole video on the lore of DMC2, which you can click up on the top right hand corner of your screen now. There's a link there which will take you to some of the insights behind DMC2 and its story, including why the hell Phantom makes an appearance here. Getting back on track though, it's no surprise that Phantom goes down like a chump and that spider is squashed for good. That leads us on to Mission 15, which takes place in the very same room. We're tasked with fighting wave after wave of enemy before a timer ends. We're able to defeat all of the enemies within the time limit, and that allows us to push on to Mission 16. This mission is pretty peculiar and has us do a wide variety of things. Dante gets up to some raunchy action in an elevator. We meet an old friend somewhere in the foyer. For some reason the doors grow faces, and we almost get lost, finally culminating in a boss fight against Trismegia, the 3 wise wizards, who, yet again, go down like absolute chumps under the fire of our missile launcher. At this point we are at the final stretch. There are only a couple of missions left standing between me and sweet victory. Victory in this case being not having to play DMC2. Mission 17 has us face off against Discount Heihachi one last time. He tries to even the score by getting his secretaries involved with a gangbang, but it simply was not meant to be. And with that sweet victory, we come to the final mission of Devil May Cry 2. Can you believe it? This game is actually shorter than the original Devil May Cry, which clocked in at technically 23 missions. This mission is simply 2 boss fights back to back. The first of which being some sort of horrific eldritch amalgamation of every single boss that we faced in the past, complete with new additions like Griffin from DMC1, who has no right to be here, but, you know, he was lonely. 3-headed chickens don't normally have too many friends, you know. And after baptizing that nightmare amalgamation with the fires of our missile launcher, it's time to take on the true final boss, the Despair Embodied. Though I'd like to call it the Hope Embodied, because it's literally the only thing that stands between you and the end of the game. If you watched my previous video, you'll have realized that I haven't really been using items all too much. Unfortunately, Holy Water doesn't really exist in DMC2 in the way that it did in the original. But for this boss, just for you, I've whipped out a couple of spare Devil Stars, which will allow us to essentially destroy this boss with the power of our Devil Trigger. And as the final cutscene concludes and the mission clear results screen pops up, we come to the end of this run. Without looking at the speedrun guide, much to my detriment by the way, we managed to scrub our way through Devil May Cry 2 in 1 hour, 38 minutes and 56 seconds. Well, there you have it. We were able to persevere through all of the trials and tribulations that DMC2 could throw at us, and we managed to finish it under the allotted time. Before we go any further, I do want to say a big thank you for sticking with me to the very end of this run, and thank you for your continued support. If you're still here, put DMC3 in the comments of this video, and who knows, maybe we'll go and attempt to beat that game and get our money back too. So now that our challenge is completed, we should be able to get our refund, right? Well, I would if I was playing on PC, but I'm not. I'm playing on console, so no refund for good old DNC. Who could have saw that one coming, eh? If you enjoyed today's video, do be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. Not only does it help the channel out a ton with the algorithm, but it lets me know what kind of content you want to see. And with that, it has been me, DevilNeverCry. I'd like to thank all of you for watching, and as always, I'll see you all next video.